hit every target we wanted to. We prosecuted everyone. Today we made science fiction science fact. When that computer went out, when we fired, it actually took out the cameras as well. We took out everything on that.
We haven't quite reached the age of phasers on stun or photon torpedoes blasting an enemy to smithereens, but that's not to say we're not getting a little closer every day. And you better believe a lot of the weapons experts were rubbing their hands with excitement at the news about the Air Force having new pulse weapons that can destroy electronics in flight. Our guest is Executive Director of Protect America Today and former Defense Department spokesman. Welcome J.D. Gordon back to the Hardline. J.D., good to see you again.
Ed, great to see you, sir.
Here we are talking now about a new super weapon, a pulse-generated beam that destroys electronics and computers from miles away. Okay, is this really new? Because I seem to recall that we've been working on this for a long time.
We've been working on it for a long time, but there was just a test last week in Utah where this weapon, this EMP missile, was very successful in blanking out all the computers at a base in Utah. It even blanked out the cameras that were looking at the test. So it's very successful, and I think this is going to be more along the lines of what we see in the future. This is the future of warfare.
Is this something that our animation here is showing basically getting, and you mentioned being on the ground, but what about going after another plane in flight? Can we take out that electronics yet with that sort of pinpoint accuracy?
Well, not at this point in time, it doesn't seem, but there are new technologies every day that our industry is working on. That's why it's so important that we fund these type of projects and that our industries are strong so they can produce these type of weapons. We have a lot of competitors in the world, Russia and China. That's also why it's very important that we defend our secrets, because we know the Russians and Chinese are trying to hack into us, and sometimes successful, on a daily basis. So we've got to protect our industrial secrets, and we've got to keep the military edge.
Are we really ahead? Because the Russians are working on this, the Chinese have got to be working on this. So do you see this as a weapon where we are really exponentially ahead of the game and having something like this that's effective?
Ed, I think we're ahead of the game when it comes to this EMP missile that can fly over an area and take out an enemy's computer systems. That's positive. But, an EMP weapon in general, which could be a nuclear blast above our skies, is something that the Russians possess that capability, so do the Chinese, so do the North Koreans, and unfortunately, most likely, the Iranians will in a short amount of time.
Is it fair to say that something like this is a first strike weapon? I mean, is this what a lot of people, and I'm actually looking at a quote here, that calls it a first day of war standoff weapon? What exactly does that mean?
Well, that means when you initiate combat operations, you have to take out the enemy's radars, their anti-aircraft systems, their computers. So what you see generally during the first day of combat operations, like we saw in Libya, in Iraq, Syria, a wave of Navy Tomahawks that gets sent in, because those Tomahawks can be launched from the sea, and they're very precise in blowing up the radars and anti-aircraft missiles, computer systems. So this aircraft missile can also fly in and blank out the enemy's electronics. So yeah, you'd use that kind of weapon on that first day, so then you could send in aircraft with pilots aboard and they won't get shot out of the sky.
I guess maybe the one thing that catches a lot of people with this is there doesn't seem to be a lot of collateral damage here, J.D., because we're always looking for that. I remember the neutron bomb of what seemed to be decades ago, but now this one gets things done, and you're not really destroying infrastructure, nor are you taking a lot of civilian casualties.
That's the beauty of it. There's very little collateral damage, and today, civilian casualties are a big part of war. It's the battle of ideas today, so if you have any civilian casualties, that's a red flag, and that hurts the ability of a country to wage war. If you look at the casualty count, Ed, from World War II, that was 60 million people, right? But today, the casualty counts are much lower in warfare. Even in Syria, 220,000, that's still a lot fewer than 60 million. And in Iraq, we lost 4,486 soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines there. But that's still a very low casualty count when you compare it to something like World War I or World War II. So I think we're going to see casualty counts decline as we go, even though as technology expands. Hopefully we just don't have to face another prospect of a nuclear war, because then obviously the casualties would go up significantly if it came to that.
J.D., you and I both know that every time something like this comes up, and I mentioned Star Wars and you talk Star Trek and a lot of else, people always talk about it when it comes down to the ray guns and being able to actually zap human beings. Does this take us any closer to that? Or, as some scientists have told me, we're talking about something so far removed from this, because this is microwaves, you need to put the Star Trek stuff still way into the future.
It's in the future, Ed, but who can tell? As long as we have the best minds working on it and the right resources, we can accomplish anything. Look, we sent a man to the moon. That was in the 60s. I remember even my first cell phone, Ed, which was in the early 1990s. It was like the size of a big brick, right? And that was just a cell phone. So that was only in the 90s. So technology is advancing at leaps and bounds, and I think that we're going to see more of this type of technology, more future weapons, and the U.S. has to maintain the edge.
I got about 60 seconds left, so let's look ahead. We have this. Great idea, but there are others that are kind of sitting in the pipeline right now, aren't there, that we should look for in the very near future, technological advancements?
Absolutely. There's the Navy's X-47B. It's like a small fighter jet, unmanned, and it's already taken off and landed on an aircraft carrier. And also just last month, it was able to do an aerial refueling. So that X-47B is like a fighter jet without a pilot. We got to look for more things like that. Also, the Navy's railgun, and the Army has a version as well, the railgun. Those don't need gunpowder or a type of propellant because they're launched with a magnetic field. So we should look at more things like that during the future. But the bottom line at it is we have to continue to invest in our defense industry and protect our secrets from the Chinese, the Russians, Iranians, and other hackers.
As we were just seeing on a highlight right there, we still have that that capsule that has gone into the skies around us that has been up there for years. Goodness knows what that is carrying. But again, hopefully it's all part of the national defense. And you're right, we have to continue to be ahead of the game at every step we go. JD, always a pleasure, my friend. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll talk to you again real soon.
Thanks, Ed. Always great to see you, sir.
All right, take care. And again, Star Wars, Star Trek, hey, come on, it's not that far off. Maybe even in our lifetime. Ooh, frightening indeed. Stay with us because this is the fastest 60 minutes in news. This is The Hardline.